blessed unity with the L-O-V-E. Love is the solution, so set your love free with the L-O-V-E. Further evolution and blessed unity.
Good morning, Self-Love Show. We are back for another segment. Welcome to today. I'm super excited. I'm your co-host, Dawn Light, and my beautiful sister here, Trish Wright. We are your co-host of the Self-Love Show in case you're new to us. And for those viewing, we love you and appreciate you, the ones that tune in weekly with us. So grateful for you. It's been a labor of our love to do this. And so we have an amazing guest today. I'm going to read his bio. So Paul Sterling is visiting with us today, which is wonderful. And just in case before I introduce him, if you're new, go check us out on all the platforms. We're everywhere. Spotify, all the different apps. You can go check us out, and YouTube channel too. So please like, share, and subscribe. It makes a world of difference to get the message of self-love out across the planet to all those that may need it. So without further ado, we're going to just welcome Paul today. And, this is the topic, which is a really juicy one. If you still love each other, but you are struggling to get along in your marriage or your relationship and are wrestling with the question, should I stay or should I go? Then this talk is for you. So Paul Sterling is a best-selling author and a relationship coach for the last 25 years. He has helped couples caught in conflict resolve their issues so they can bring back the magic and remember why they feel in love in the first place. So he is authored a book called Are You Less, Love More? So welcome, Paul. We're really grateful to have you.
Thank you. And it's such an important subject. I love the idea of your show, the whole concept of self-love, because you can be in a great relationship, and if you don't love yourself, you can still be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can have some pretty miserable circumstances in life, and if you love yourself, things can be pretty good. So Thank you both for being those shining lights.
Well, self-love really sets a foundation for boundaries and secure attachment and the desire for connection and choosing resourcefulness over disconnect.
Yeah.
No.
I had it. This is a wild thought. It's going to sound like it's taking us off course for 2 seconds, but it will bring us right back. I was actually fishing in front of my house, and I had this thought. Most businesses, like 80% of new businesses fail in the first 5 years. It's probably more than that. And I was thinking about relationships that about 55 to 65% end up in divorce. And I thought about it, and I said, normally I was depressed by that statistic. And I realized when I thought about it, I'm actually excited about it. Because people they invest everything into business, and they still fail at an 80% rate. People invest so little time and training into their relationship, and they're surviving at a 55 to 65% rate. That's a friggin' miracle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it that way, we are so unprepared for this thing, and there's this fairy tale out there that if we just love each other enough, that love is all it takes, and it's not. You need the skills. I mean, think of Trish. How many courses and schools and things have you gone through? And I'm sure, Dawn, it's the same. It's like people do not prepare for this thing called relationship. The other one they don't prepare for is this thing called parenting, which we're not going to get into today. But two of the most difficult things. I literally have had rocket scientists as clients, and they said it was easier to be a rocket scientist or a surgeon or a doctor or a veterinarian, all these professionals that have trained immensely. Relationships is still the frontier that is challenging them the most.
Well, if you look at relationships through the lens of we are one consciousness experiencing itself at all times, relating with the divine being God, all that is, whatever you want to call it, the one that has eons, many names for eons and eons and eons, we're relating with it with ourself at all times. So relationships are a mirror to ourself, and they mirror our blind spots and our karma and our places we've taken embodiment to learn and grow through on a soul. So we have soul spiritual lessons. We've chosen to say, hey, I'm going to be a female, for me, a female born into a family that I'm going to endure abuse.
So, John, can I back you up like 1 second? You said something that it's really important for people to hear it. If they don't hear it right, that thing that it's a mirror. You said it's a mirror to reflect back the blind spot. I once was told that if we teach what we need to learn, and I used to hear that as an insult. And then I thought, like, why the hell not? Why would you want to teach stuff you don't have an interest in? And so, how do you look at it as a mirror and not take it personally?
Well, now I look through curious eyes. That's the beautiful gift out of all the training and learning and graduate school and the gifts and the tools that I teach my clients, is because you have to apply curiosity to be open to where that painful spot is, because it's so painful. We're hardwired as humans to go towards pleasure and away from pain. And so it's a learned muscle to become curious at what is this dark void of pain I'm witnessing in this aspect of my life, right? That might be showing up as a sense of rejection, or, a push-pull in relationship dynamics, or however it shows up, right? It was rejection pattern for me for a long time. I felt rejected by my father. And then that was working itself out in male relationships in my life for a very long time. And so I broke the cycle and got into a loving relationship, but I still had subtle remnants of big triggers that would surface with my beloved, with my partnership, with my son. And ultimately, that's what led me to go to graduate school, is because I wanted a better relationship with them. So I chose to look at the most difficult relationship with a magnifying glass so that I could break through the pattern.
Yeah, and hopefully the listeners get your pens and papers out. There's going to be good stuff here, and I'm going to talk about 3 C's. I just want to tap into what you said.
Go for it.
To create a great relationship, you need to be curious. You need to be courageous. You need to be compassionate. You need to be curious. And when your partner gets triggered, that's a place to become courageous, rather than run from the room, because that's my tempting pattern, like to I did something wrong and make it about me. Or I get courageous and I go, honey, tell me more. And being compassionate means to meet somebody where they're at, like, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, or that's not what really happened. Like, let me tell you what really happened, because your thinking's all screwed up. Now, that really helps people. They love it when you do that.
No, doesn't help people at all.
And then being curious, like, what precious need, when you got upset, there must have been a precious need of yours that wasn't getting met.
Mm-hmm.
And part of my big breakthrough is training with a guy named Marshall Rosenberg. And I know Trish is super familiar with nonviolent communication. And I actually ended up taking it into prison for 8.5 years. I ran a volunteer program teaching inmates about compassionate communication. And this show, though, it's more, we're going to talk more about relationships, I'm guessing. And most relationships don't end because of a lack of love. They end because people run into a problem that's bigger than their skill set. In fact, see, if it was a lack of love, it'd be easy. You'd go, honey, I don't love you anymore. You don't love me. Let's end it. Boom, no problem, no divorce. Well, it could be a divorce still, but it's not this emotional trauma. It's when we really love each other and can't get along.
Mm-hmm. Or can't resolve the issue.
We don't have the tools and the training or the resources. So if you think about it, so Trish, how many languages do you speak?
Including body language.
Good one.
I fiddle with Spanish and
Poquito español, despacio, por favor.
yeah.
So when I work with couples, I talk to them about the three languages. We have the language of the head, which tends to be more masculine. It's facts, figures, who's right, who's wrong, very sort of dominant. Like, let's just get down to the facts. Emotions are messy and get in the way. And in that one, in the language of the head, knowledge is king or queen. It's a key. Feelings are vulnerability and messy. Then there's the language of the heart.
Yeah.
That's where feelings, needs, emotions come in, requests, vulnerability. And it's like, screw the facts. How do you feel?
Yeah.
And when you're in the heart, vulnerability is the most precious. And then the third language is we have the language of hurt, which is our reptile brain. And literally, I'll just say one thing. This is something that people can write down. I taught this to an airline pilot. He said that this one sentence that I'll finish this part on. This one sentence saved the airlines over $500,000. This one sentence. So you may want to have your pen out, write it out. But when we're in our reptile brain, all that reptile speaks is the language of, if you're not my ally, you are my what?
Enemy.
Enemy. And if you're not safe, you are dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, when somebody goes into their reptile brain, we try to talk to them with logic and reason. You shouldn't feel that way. That to a reptile just makes it worse. Tell somebody who's really upset, you're overreacting. You shouldn't, honey, you should calm down, take a breath. You shouldn't feel that way. You're way too emotional right now. It's at that time of month. And then you could die from that comment.
Well, that's the death wish. Yes, that's what I heard.
Yeah, death wish. So the important thing is all of the training, like we go to these relationship courses and all the rest of that, a lot of those are in your head or some of them in your heart, but none of it gets to the reptile.
Yeah.
So the thing is how do you get somebody out of their reptile brain and back into their heart? And I don't know.
Well, I'd like to just say that what most people don't understand is that it is through the conflict that intimacy can be built, right? So for me, there's layers of intimacy, but some of the two foundations of intimacy is vulnerability and trust. And so what's more vulnerable than sharing your deepest, darkest pains? Now, the Gottmans, many of you have probably read something about the Gottman Institute, which is kind of a fascinating research that they can 98% tell if a couple is going to stay together. I don't know how they did that. It is like melting my brain the more I get into it. But the things that they say, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, or the 4 killers of a relationship, is criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So when we do that to our partner, we don't offer or allow the opportunity to really find that intimacy, find that vulnerability, be met in it and held and cared, and to actually show up in that space. So if you got anything from this, is it's through the conflict. You have to have conflict to get to the intimacy that you want. Yeah.
And it's so important, Trish, for people to actually dive deeper into what intimacy actually is. So I'm going to ask, and take off your enlightened hat for this one, Trish. I just want to play with you for a second so you can represent the listener. Do you want more intimacy, love, understanding in your relationship?
What are the other options?
Or less?
Wait, just tell me
This is a leading question.
But I know that the more intimacy I need, the more conflict I need. Whoa, hold on.
Oh, see, this is the problem. I told you to take off your enlightened hat.
It doesn't work like that.
Because
of course, Here, let me answer.
Yeah.
Of
Okay,
course, I
so
want more
here, I'm going to ask
love.
you the other side of the question now. You ready?
Yeah.
Do you want more risk, less control, and more vulnerability?
I know the answer. No, of course not.
Right. So people want one-sided coins because to get intimacy, what most people think is intimacy is about safety. No, I'm
Oh.
sorry. Intimacy is about risk.
Yeah.
When you go out on ask somebody out on a date for the first time, it's not safe. It's risk. When you're in the bedroom and you're asking for something new and different, it's not safe. It's risk. When relationships die over time, it's they become so safe they don't risk anymore. Now, I'm not saying go not have a relationship that's safe, definitely, but I'm talking more about my own safety, and it takes courage to be vulnerable.
It does take courage. And also like repair is also risky because it takes
Absolutely.
both people to actually move a lot. And the oftentimes the person who has been harmed has a more like rigorous action to actually let go and forgive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'd like to just sort of bring in is that place of, well, I think that our culture can get really addicted to novelty, to risk. And instead of like kind of like building some aspects of safety, I mean, I know I've read the Esther Perel research on risk and like novelty and stuff like that. And I've also am like noticing that people will often, I mean, like, why do people cheat? Novelty and nostalgia. So it's like, where's the part where we're building contentment and finding the intimacy even in the boring, and not just the risk or the novelty pieces?
See, I would separate those two out, novelty and risk. See, novelty can be about avoiding risk.
Right.
Someone can go have an affair or cheat because they don't want to risk talking to their partner and asking for what they really want. So they're avoiding vulnerability at home, and they're going out for novelty. So you can separate the two. They can be together, but they're not the same thing.
Okay.
It's risky, and I love that we can have these
I
different.
know. I love, yeah. Many of you don't know that Paul and I've had a lot of time shared together, and we debate and banter all the time because it's just good. Like, I mean, Don and I debate concepts as well, so it's just good to like get into the like, well, how does this work, and like find it all out. Hey, Paul, is there something that you'd like to share with the audience that can
Well,
help save your marriage now?
yeah, quick. But I want to say one thing. When I work with couples, there are hundreds or thousands of different relationship skills, but I'm going to narrow it down to the three most critical ones, according to me.
Mhm.
Um, and Dawn, if you don't clear up the past, where is the past?
Living in your perceptual filter.
Yeah, it's in the present. And if the past is in the present, what happens to possibilities for the future?
It really limits your possibilities because you're seeing through a perceptual filter of hurt and pain from the past, and so it's always going to be met in your current relationships. That pattern is going to be everywhere.
Right. And so the three skills that I talk about is how do you clear up the past? And Trish, you brought it kind of up. It's like, because if you don't clear up the past, it's in the present. The second skill is about how to be present. And I know it sounds a little woo-woo, like, oh, be present, woo, chanting. No, it's like, can you be present when your partner is heartbroken or has loss or is angry? You know, my triggered one, the challenge, my partner's angry at me. How do I stay present, not run from the room and go, you're right. And I'm still here. Like, how can you be present? Because everybody like kind of wants to jump to just the possibilities of the future. And there's an expression, called poo pie. I think I got it originally from this workshop called Landmark. But if you have a pie in the pie pan that's just poo, you put lots of icing on it, you still have a poo pie. And unless you do deep work, you don't clear that out. And people try to put more icing on it. Well, we'll go on a vacation, or we'll do this stuff, but we won't talk about what's real and alive. And so it's, how do you clear up the past? How do you connect and get present? And that's what creates possibilities for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So Trish, can you go back to your question? I know we're
I'm gonna
Spotlight
on
you.
the screen and let you share something with our audience, something that they can help save our relationship.
All right. Well, I started to tell you the story about the three different ways we communicate: from the head, the heart, or the hurt. And the most important one for people to remember is when their partner is triggered, what to do. And this is what I taught the airline pilot that ended up using it mid-flight. And if he didn't have this skill, they were thinking of having to land because a passenger got somewhat out of control on the flight. And the simple sentence is, and it's, I want you to write it down, whoever you are, wherever you are. I want you to test it. I want you to feel it in your body. The simple sentence is, honey. And now, he didn't say honey to this person, but in a relationship, it's, honey, what do you need to feel safe right now? You can use it on your kids. You can use it, if it's a coworker, you don't have to say honey. You go, oh, what do you need to feel safe right now? Because when they're in their reptile brain, their safety is most important. And are you my enemy or my ally? If you're my ally, you care about how I feel. If you're my enemy, you're trying to take away my feelings. You're trying to tell me I'm bad, stupid, wrong, or you're gaslighting me. And that's really challenging. You're telling me I shouldn't feel the way I feel. Where if you go, what do you need to feel safe right now? Now, I want to also take that, I said earlier, the 3 C's: courage, compassion, and curiosity. You become curious and enter their world, because when people are communicating, they want 3 things. And please draw out a triangle, put it up on your refrigerator. People want to be heard, understood, and valued. And when you ask them, what do you need to feel safe right now? They really feel valued. It's entering their world. And if you think about it, the quality of your relationship, I think on this one, is the quality of your communication and learning how to communicate so that somebody else feels heard, understood, and valued. And you're learning how to translate. One of my teachers, a guy named Marshall Rosenberg, Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, creator of nonviolent communication, said the normal outcome for most communication is misunderstanding. And if you start there and enter somebody's world, and what you're trying to do is translate almost everything they say into either an act of love or cry for help. I have used these tools and taught these tools. My version of nonviolent communication, which is the Argue Less, Love More method, and you can find that on Argue Less, Love More. I taught this to minimum to maximum security inmates in prison. I'm talking about people who have killed other people, who have, drug dealers. They're like some really tough people. And it's helped them shift their relationship. Because anytime that you're agitated, and this is the self-love show, when you're really agitated, one of the things you can do to love yourself is look in the mirror and go, honey, what do you need to feel safe right now? What do I need to feel safe right now? What do I need to feel loved right now? And learning how to take care of yourself, learning how to be there for your partner so that you can be courageous, compassionate, and curious. So say that with me: courageous, compassionate, and curious. And Don said that, curiosity earlier. If somebody's upset, rather than running, which is what I did for years, I people get triggered and I try to leave the conversation, to lean in and go, tell me more. Those are magic words. Tell me more. And the other magic sentence is, what do you need to feel safe right now? So it's an ongoing practice, in doing the basics, so that before you try to correct somebody, if they're upset and they say, well, you came home 30 minutes late, and you say, no, I came home 22 minutes late, then there's no compassion, no connection, no curiosity. So what you want to do is lean into their world, tell me more, and feed it back. What I think I heard you say was, you're upset because I didn't do this or that. So I don't know what else you want me to go through today.
No,
I'm on
I love that. I'm just bringing us back on. Yeah. I think that's the simplicity of that is actually the truth, because I've used it many, many a time. And again, people want their needs met first, oftentimes. And so like it's often that defensiveness or that criticism or that contempt or that stonewalling piece that literally just like stops people from getting to where those three simple things. It's that piece. It's like, and the before the show we were talking about, it takes a carefulness about other people, not to self-abandon, right? But to actually be caring for the other people, kind of either at the same time or before self in some ways. Like, I got to go resource myself so I can come back to Paul and be like, hey, I know you're hurt. I am also hurt, and I want to hear you. And it just takes that mutuality of care that I'd really love people to just like to focus on first. Is like, if I messed up, I know Dawn's going to be upset. I know that she's got a lot more effort to take than I do to forgive me or to get back to connection. So it's like, how do I find the compassion? How do I find that curiosity? How do I come back to that connection? So thank you, Paul. I really love that. I love the like concise, the concision that you bring in.
Well, it's got to be simple, because it's got to be at its best when you're at your worst. And you brought up another topic earlier in the beginning about attachment theory. And I think people it's like a different language. There's three that the way I describe it: a pursuant, an avoidant, and a unicorn. Those are the people who are happily attached. There's 7 of them running around the whole world. The rest of us are either pursuant or avoidant. And it's understanding what your partner is, because if you think they're like you might really trigger them. Like, an avoidant needs to get away from the argument and upset to calm their nervous system down, because in the middle of it's like being in a fire and somebody saying, how do you feel right now? It's like, I don't give a damn how I feel. Let's get out of the burning house. When the house is put out, I can't go internal. And the pursuant is, I can't, until we're okay, I can't be with me.
Yeah.
So these are all other things for a different conversation, but it's important to know your partner's tendencies and patterns and to be able to communicate, to go back to those 3 things.
Yeah.
Courageous, compassionate, and curious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're liking this conversation, you're definitely welcome to reach out to Paul. We put his links in the chat, arguelesslovemore.info. You can just share if you'd like about your Facebook group and your breakthrough.
Yeah, I have a Facebook group. Wow, it's called Argue Less, Love More. And you can join that. And if people want to have a breakthrough session, I spend about 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes with them to find out whether we want to work together. And what we do is we look at where they are now, where they want to go, what breakthroughs do they need. And the thing that most people don't understand about therapy of any kind, and relationship coaching especially, is relationships don't change. You don't bring a relationship in and get a relationship fixed. People change, and they change the relationship. But if you come in and to a therapist or counselor expecting them to change you, good luck. It's not, and so what we want to do is find out, do you want to work together? Are you ready for a breakthrough in the way that you communicate, in the way you think about it? Because there's like your mindset, your skill set, and your heart set. One of those three things needs to be changed for you to have a breakthrough. And if that's something that you're interested in doing and you're committed and you still love each other but are having a hard time getting along, let's have a conversation.
And you can find all of those links in the chat if you're on Facebook or YouTube. And I'll read it out to you just now. So arguelesslovemore.info is the website. And you can also get a breakthrough session at www.arguelesslovemore.net/breakthrough with Paul. Thank you, Paul, for your time and your sweetness.
Appreciate you, Paul.
Thank you, Trish. Thank you, Don. Thank you, and thank you for being a stand for loving yourself.
It's an ever practice because there's incremental layers. You just have to keep peeling away. And
Exactly. Being with.
Well, Don, do you have anything you want to share?
No, I'm good. I just want to say thanks, Paul. I love your whole beautiful offering of Are You Less, Love More. It's beautiful that you really just offer this to couples. Like, it's great. I know couples want deep intimacy, and that's a really key ingredient to, sometimes we just need more tools to be able to meet the difficulty of how it's surfacing in our relationships. So good job. Like, that's a really good thing that you're offering that to the world. And I really appreciate to know you in this way and to celebrate the gift you bring to the table. And thank you for your preciousness, your time, and, being a good model around it all in your own relationship. So really important.
Yeah. And I had to do it like some people write the book for somebody else. I wrote the book for me. I needed to get clear where I was screwing up, to put it bluntly, in my communication, my relationships. So thanks so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for being here and also committing your lives to self-love and the love of others. Speaking of the love of others, let's share a little love to Roy and Russell, our team that makes this whole thing possible, that helps with all the design and all of the back end, and for all the emails that you send. Thank you so much, Roy and Russell, and your beautiful little family. Give kisses to Poppy for me. Thank you to Love Coach Academy, Scott Thomas, and Global Peace Tribe for being the muse and for running us out on other platforms. And thank you to all of you who keep showing up and committing to your own self-love. This is what this is all about, and this is for you. So we'll see you here, same time, same place next week.